Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Unlocking Our Code. Today, we're going to be talking about new beginnings because it is the start of a new year, 2025. So, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm here with Stevie, of course. We actually took a 2-week break or something?
Yeah, it felt longer for some reason.
I think it was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but we did. Between the holidays and everything, and then illness, we got sick, and so again, it just seems like we can't ever get over it.
Yeah, one thing or another. So that's why you hear my voice a little different today.
Well, you don't sound different, but it's 2025. I've been writing 2024 everywhere still, so I need to get used to it. I'll probably get used to it by like March.
Okay, a couple more months.
Yeah, anywho. So, but this one is, something that I've been, this episode, at least what we want to talk about, is something that has been playing heavy in my mind for the last couple of months. Because, everybody talks about the beginning of the year and the new year, new me type of mentality thing. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to set the new goals for the new year. What do they call it? What's your New Year's resolution? Yeah. Like they said the New Year's resolution, and then it's a great way to start, right? The new year and to set your goals and to set your intentions for the year and so on. But I think for me, like, it makes me nervous to think of starting my new goals, because you know what, I feel like I've always let myself down. I feel that it's not that because motivation comes and goes for me. It comes and goes, and I feel it comes and goes for everybody. I feel that motivation, some days we can have it and some days it's like blah, nothing, right? And we have to pump ourselves up and hype ourselves up to get to what we need to do for the day. And sometimes even just doing normal routines, like getting up and showering and getting dressed and putting jeans on, because that's huge for me. Sometimes I don't even want to wear jeans. I just want to be in sweats all day. But anywho, those are the things that motivation I get. But discipline is hard for me. So I've always known that motivation gets you far, but discipline takes you further, right? Because motivation will come and go. But if you're disciplined, you're just going to do what you need to do regardless. So I struggle with the discipline part. And when it comes to the beginning of the year and new goals and setting intentions and setting New Year's resolutions, it makes me nervous because I feel like I'm already thinking you're just going to, by February, it's going to just all go down the drain.
And maybe even when you're saying discipline, right? Maybe what I'm feeling, it's like the meaning behind that word, right? So it's like sometimes the language that we choose carries a certain frequency with the word. So just think of discipline in general,
Yeah.
What vibration does discipline have?
Ugh.
Right?
Yeah.
If you really think about it from that point of view, it's like, well, as a child, I was disciplined by my mom and dad, right? And then what were the consequences of being disciplined? They weren't always great, right? Yeah. So now imagine as an adult trying to still use that word that you learned since childhood, that it's not it doesn't have a good meaning attached to it. So sometimes it could also be the word itself. So if discipline is not sitting well with you, maybe finding a higher frequency word that you could associate, that could have a similar meaning, but it's not discipline itself.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's discipline that doesn't feel well in my body, then it's kind of like your body telling you, let's look for a different word that we can resonate with, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So sometimes it's just like us making those shifts within us that can make a difference, right? So if you don't want to use discipline, what other word would you like to use instead of discipline, right?
Yeah, I need to think about that one. Maybe I don't know what it would be. Not. See, I like motivation. I like that one because I feel like I can hype myself up sometimes, and then I can get going to what I need to do. Maybe more like I don't know, empowering or just empowering myself or not letting myself down. I don't know how I would put that into words, but I think it's one of those things where it's hard, right? I think for a lot of people, because for example, we can say exactly this. People start off wanting to go to the gym, right now I'm pretty sure the gyms are like packed. Everybody wants to start off with their weight loss journey, and they have a goal in mind and think like, I need to have a summer body by summer, and so on and so forth, right? And so I think being more intentional with that, instead of saying I just want to lose weight, or I'm trying to lose 30 pounds, 20 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever what number is, right? And instead of doing that, I learned that instead of just setting a goal, something that you can see and you that's what you want to reach, maybe being more intentional, right? Like, so this is something that I learned throughout the year, is being more intentional. Instead of saying things like, I'm gonna lose weight by such a date, is saying like, I'm gonna be more, I want to nurture my body more with love and care, or where you're not really seeing it so much as what I look like right now is terrible, horrible. I hate myself, and I want that body over there, like that, whomever, whatever in expectation you've set for yourself. So being more like, I want to reach this goal by this time period, which is good to have. I feel like specific goals, but then when when I'm saying this, I'm also imagining a lot about me, like, how I feel like I've dealt with it is as we're going along, and then I don't see the results that I expecting to see. And then it's like very easy to just fall off the wagon. Like, I didn't get there, I'm not there. It's like, it's not where I didn't go to the gym like 5 times this week, I only went once, and then you just kind of quit and you just fall off. But seeing the progress instead of focusing so much on that end goal that you're expecting to see, like seeing the progress, those are things that have been helping me be easier on myself. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. And I'm saying this to myself right now as I'm saying it. It's like, don't be so hard on yourself. I'm doing more than what I was last year or last month or last week. I actually did go out for a walk 30 minutes, yesterday, or I did go to the gym yesterday. I wasn't doing that last week, or I wasn't doing that last month. And so it's those little things, it's focusing on those small pieces that we want instant results. We want to see it now. We want it to happen now. And when we don't get it, we're just like, oh, screw this shit. I'm just going to like quit, So that's been one of the hardest things for me. But this year, those are my things, to be more intentional, and not be so ruthless and want like that end goal, like right off the bat.
And that's such a powerful word to swap discipline with, right? So if I used to use discipline, now I know that I don't have to be disciplined. I could be intentional. And that's like, you feel that?
Yeah.
Like, say discipline and your body feels a certain way.
Yeah.
And you say intentional, and it's a whole different frequency that you vibe. Feel, right? Because there's more room. With discipline, it's hard for sure. It's like there's certain expectations. There's a lot of criticism, a lot of judgment, a lot of like all these things that come with discipline. But intentional, there's room to grow. There's expansion. There's more compassion. There's more awareness as well. So even like setting goals, right? For as we're beginning the new year, setting goals from a place of intentionality instead of like discipline, or instead of like how we've done it before and it hasn't worked for ourselves. So I think that that's a huge like win for you at this moment, that you're able to see like discipline, just not sitting good for me, but being intentional is, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great one. I feel that starting the new year intentional is huge for anyone that could see that. It shifts the whole goal way of doing things, right? So it's like you don't have to be focused so much on the goals or even on the result, but you could be more focused on the intention.
Yeah, and the progress, like the small progress that we fail to look at, right? And it doesn't only have to be like in the fitness like thing, but I mention it because I think a lot of people can understand it from that point of view, because I feel a lot of us are going that route. But even when it comes to like changing your mindset or wanting to be a bit more like on the self-love, like self-care type of I want to be more intentional with myself, we spoke about that a little bit earlier, but when it comes to putting ourselves first and wanting to and being okay with that. I still struggle with that a bit. I still struggle with sitting down and taking a break and not feeling guilty. I still struggle with that. And I have to like constantly have that battle with myself where I put all this judgment on myself and I put all these expectations of what I should be doing. And that's a lot. It's a lot because it feels that even if I feel like I'm relaxing, that judgment of like, well, shouldn't you be doing something? Like, shouldn't you be doing X, Y, and Z? Like, why are you taking this break? You should be doing other things, or and stuff like that. So that's another thing, and that's like another goal that I have for myself is to not be so judgmental of myself, and try and let go of all these like expectations that are like ingrained in me because they're not real. It's not a real thing. Like, there's no such thing as that, and nobody's giving them to me. Like, absolutely nobody else. It's just me, myself, and I. So that's definitely another thing. Learning more about self-love and putting myself first and saying like, hey, it's all right, it's okay, you're doing good, or you did good. So
that's a good one. That's a really powerful one to be aware of as you're beginning the year, because imagine like you're just beginning the year, right? So if you could go on with that mindfulness throughout the year, imagine where you will be at the end of the year, how much more awareness, the journey that you will go on just from taking on that mindfulness.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, it's all about the journey. I feel like, yeah, we've been programmed to just focus on the result, but it's not much about the result. It's actually the journey. Like everything that we go through little by little to arrive to the actual result that we need to learn to embrace. Like, embrace the beginning, embrace every single little step, big, small, and then once we arrive at the end, celebrate everything that went on, right? For us to arrive to that place. A lot of the times we're just so focused on the result that we miss the most important part, which is the journey itself. Right? And that's one of the things that it's important for us to be aware that the journey itself is what brings us the joy. It's what we're here for, to experience the actual journey, not the result. It's like if we were born today, you're not waiting just for the day that you die. Right? We must enjoy every little thing that happens throughout our life here on earth, right? All the experiences we get to have.
Seeing everything in the middle and stopping and realizing sometimes we get that, like, everyone's so caught up in what they're trying to reach, achieve, what they're trying to look like, what they're trying to how we want others to see us, and how you're trying to always reach or become or be something else, and that takes a lot of energy to always try and be just the way others see us, other view us as a society, how we're looked at, how, did you reach, are you making this much money? Are you driving this car? Are you getting that job? If not, if you're not doing all those things, you're like dying to get there. You're trying to like hurry up and make it happen because others are doing it. And why am I not doing it? Why you're trying to get there all the time? And sometimes I just remember like it takes me back to when I was working and then thinking of like, you're so caught up in all that BS that you don't I feel like I miss so much, like the in between. Everything's blurry other than what I was trying to achieve at work and what I was trying to like, what my goals, because I have 50 billion goals and everything felt like I was always trying to, even if I reached my goals at the time at my work, I still felt like it wasn't enough, because the moment I reached there, guess what? There was still another mountain to climb and another mountain to climb and another mountain to climb. So I never got to enjoy any of it. And then I would come home and then I was exhausted, mentally drained, felt like a failure. I didn't do enough. It was never enough. So that's exhausting. And so it makes me think of everything that I missed. Then not being present, in other words, right? Not being present, not being able to really, there's no intention behind it. My thing was like, I want to see the result. I want to see the result. I want to get there. I want to get there. And I never got there. One time I read back a piece of a journal that I wrote, or I don't, where did I put, maybe I posted it somewhere. And it made me realize, like, I was always trying to climb all these mountains. Like, I was always trying to climb the next mountain and the next mountain and the next mountain. And I was just trying to, like, go. And then I had to stop and think, like, dang, I was there. I climbed that mountain and I climbed that one and I climbed that one. And there's people that are, like, dying to climb the mountains that I've been on. And I never stopped to realize that until possibly last year. Then I was like, dang, I never stopped to give myself that, like, hey, you did that already, like, calm down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you didn't even give yourself the time to celebrate.
Nothing,
to enjoy the journey.
Nothing. I enjoyed nothing
because you're so focused on the outcome.
Yeah,
you missed I
missed everything,
the whole journey itself. And it happens to a lot of us. It's still something that we get caught on from time to time, right? To just be focused on the result.
But it never ends, though. There is a never-ending result. It's a never-ending thing until we die. That's when it ends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're never going to get to wherever we're trying to get to, because once you get there, there's another fucking mountain to climb. So that's my point, is that you're missing the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
You're missing it all. If you're not stopping on top of that mountain and looking upon everything that you've reached, and then celebrating the climb and all this other stuff, you're missing the whole point of life.
Yeah, because imagine to climb that mountain, you made connections.
Yeah.
You met new people.
Yeah.
You went through certain moments that were good, certain moments that taught you lessons. Like, you had this huge experience to climb that mountain.
Yeah.
And you missed it all.
Yeah.
Just because you were focused to climb up the mountain.
The next one.
Right?
Yep.
And then once you were up there, you weren't even grateful that you got up there. You just looked at the next mountain and you went on the next one. And then we continue on these cycles, right? And that's what you're saying, that it just gets exhausting for me, like, I had that realization at the beginning of the year too, because I went through this exercise the first week of January that, like, changed so much in me in that moment. I went through this exercise where I asked myself, I journaled, what would you do if today was your last day on earth? Like, how would you live it? What energy? Who would you see? What would you do? What energy would you want to take? Right? And I answered, like, everything, right? So then, like, when you read that and you see, like, nothing else really matters.
No.
Nothing that we think matters. really matters, because if today was your last day, none of that would matter, right? So it's like, after I did the exercise and I wrote everything, I then told myself, what if you lived like that every day from this day forward?
Yeah.
Instead of being so like blinded by everything else, what if you just focused on that energy and you lived from that place? Because in reality, if you think about it, it's a journey that we're on earth, right? We don't know, our mind doesn't know when it'll be our last day. Our soul does, but our mind doesn't, right? So it's like, if today was your last day, who would you see? What would you do? What would you say? What would you leave behind? And what energy would you take with you? And you know what the answer was to like what energy I would take with me? Love. So nothing else matters but love.
Yeah.
What else matters?
Yeah.
Nothing. So all those things that we carry on the new year, and we pile up stress, and we pile up anger, and we pile up all these things over and over again, it gets exhausting, because we're carrying the same luggage that we had last year and the year before and the one before. So it's like, I feel like at the beginning of the year, when we can be intentional and ask ourselves those questions, what would I do if this was my last day? Like, it really does something to you to get on that headspace and answer those questions, because it truly helps you see clear. Like, this is what matters, and this is what I should focus on in this year. Like, focus on the things that truly matter for me, you know? And when I did that exercise, it just like truly took me to places, because that was like the doorway for me to go deeper, right? And I started seeing, oh my God, and I've been doing A, B, and C, and for like, just to be what? Like, to please others, to all these things start coming up, right? And it starts removing these layers of like masks and titles and all these things that we continue to play on just to be someone, or just to act a certain way because society needs us to, or this needs us, or the job, or whatever it is, right? So it just kind of like made me see clear, like, I'm tired. I'm exhausted of like trying, like, who really am I?
Yeah.
If this is what matters, if today was my last day on earth and this is what matters, what am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, what really am I doing? I'm too focused. If it's someone, for example, let's say, if all that matters to me today, if today was my last day, was to be with my children or with my loved ones, but I don't even pay attention to my children, and I don't even pay attention to my loved ones, because I'm too focused at work, or too focused on my career, or too focused on other stuff, then what really are we doing? Yeah. Right? So it's like those questions, when we self-reflect on all that, it makes you see that a lot of the things that we're living on a day-to-day is just an illusion.
It is.
Like, what truly matters, ask yourself that question, you know, write it down, see what really matters, and see if you're focused on what truly matters on a daily basis. Or are we chasing a dream? Are we chasing a title? Are we chasing the next big thing, money, career, job? Like, what are we chasing? Right? So it just kind of like makes, I don't know, it helped me.
I think it has a lot to do with like
clarity.
What you went through is, it's kind of what I feel that I did last year at the beginning, was like what my values are. I remember at work, they used to talk, there was like an icebreaker or something like that, and they did something like, well, what are your values? I struggled so much with that question. I had no clue what they were. I was like, I don't know. I hear all these people saying what their values are. And for me to find what my values were, I was like, come on, answer the question. And I was just like, I have no idea what my values are. Like, I don't know. What are my values? What does that really mean to me? What does it really mean to me? You know? And I struggled with that. I swear to God, I think I that day I even Googled like what are values? What can be your values? And I just picked whatever the hell Google pulled up. And it sounds like super stupid probably, but I really couldn't. I didn't know. I didn't know what I valued. I didn't know what was important to me. You know. Because it was so, yeah, like you said, you're just blinded by all this BS that's all around you, and then you feel like that's who you are. And then I think that everybody at some point is gonna get to that you get to that point in your life where you're like, what is all this shit? I don't even care for it. Like, you know, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't even and I don't know. I have a theory that I'm like, when people say you're going through like a midlife crisis, I don't think it's a midlife crisis. I think it's a point in your life where you're really saying, what the hell am I doing with my life? Like, I've already had half of my life spent, and now I need to focus on the next half of my life. If we get there, right? And then, do I really want to spend it like I've been doing? Like, no. Like, I actually want to do things that when they say like, oh, you're doing all these things that you couldn't do when you were young. It's like, yeah, because that's what I really wanted to do. That's what I've always wanted to do. And I didn't do it because, you know, all this extra stuff that came in. Like, you shouldn't be, what do you mean you're going to go get singing lessons? Yeah, I've always wanted to sing. Or what do you mean you're going to go buy a freaking, you know, go horse riding? Like, yes, I've always wanted to do that, you know? So, and then people make joke of it like, oh, he's going through a midlife crisis. She's going through a midlife. But it's like, you ever really stop to think? I feel like it's like yourself is telling you like, hey, it's time like to do things what you really wanted to do, and screw what everybody thinks about you, and screw what society thinks you should and shouldn't be doing. Like, this is what you really want to do, so just freaking do it already, you know? So I did find out what my values were. I learned what it was, and I think it was that time where I said, all right, my values are not aligned with what I'm doing every single day. And so that was like a big pivotal moment in my life where I was fighting something. I was already going against everything that I wanted, and I learned everything about myself. And that's where more of an intentional thing came into my mind, and I started learning about being more intentional. But this year, I just want to take it to a whole new level, you know, and I really just want to start with me, and that's what I struggle with. But because I know I struggle with that, I feel like my intentions are it's going to be more intense, like more in the forefront, because I know that I struggle with that feeling of like letting myself down and putting myself like, you know, like we talked about earlier, if I had to do something for someone, I would do it in a heartbeat. But if I have to do it for me, just like, oh, yeah, it's fine. You don't need to do that. Like, I know you said you want to, but you don't really need to, you know? But I need to stop and look at those little, you know, the progress that I'm making. I need to celebrate those things. That's my thing. It's being more intentional, putting myself first, not letting myself down, stop letting myself down. And I know my values, and it's similar to what you said you went through, you know, it's like, just, this is what's important to me. Yeah. And just going with that. Yeah.
And not being worried about like what I seen that I was just worried about things that at the end don't really matter. You know what I mean? And another thing that for me, that I'm really being mindful of this year and in this new year is learning to live out of survival mode or flight or fight mode. Yeah. I feel that that's a very common state of living for a lot of humanity at this point. We've learned to just survive, to kind of just get by and just be okay. So like with
whatever the day brings, that's what I'm going to deal with.
Yeah, like I'm surviving, I'm fine. Like it's okay. Like I'm good. Like getting out of that mindset that survival is like me living in survival mode or fight or flight. It's okay. It's okay to be in those two zones because this is all I've known all my life, right? I'm in a place right now where I'm really focusing to learn to thrive, right? Not only to learn it, because obviously we could learn that all day, but for my body to feel safe in that energy. I felt so safe for so long, just surviving or being on fight or flight mode. But when I get to the thriving area where, being aligned, when I'm aligned, it almost feels like this is like a new energy, right? Like, okay, I'm aligned, but I look at to the right and to the left, like, especially when I'm out, when you could be in a family function, whatever, and I feel aligned in that moment. And then I look around and then I see everybody on survival mode, and then I'm like, oh, but if everyone's on survival mode, then I'm like, I don't fit in with that. So I kind of like bring myself back to survival mode, just to like be okay, be part of what everybody's doing. So now it's like I'm being more mindful that it's okay to learn how to thrive. It's okay to live aligned. It's okay to live different than how others do, but stepping out of that comfort zone, that survival and fight or flight, even though we're miserable in that energy, we're comfortable in that energy because it's all we've known, right? So I am really focusing on that and being more mindful as well of my inner critic, like the things that the inner critic feeds me, and catching the thoughts and actually, one of the things that I started doing is I stopped fighting with the inner critic. I used to fight a lot with my inner critic when it would like be harsh or have like mean comments to say. I would just fight it back because it's what I knew how to do, just fight back. Now I'm stepping out of it and being more compassionate, like being compassionate to that part of myself, because this part of myself developed for a reason. So having more compassion towards this part, more mindful of like the thoughts that are coming in. So it's just like I've been on this I've been thinking of like you said, like how could I be more intentional, not only have external goals, like, right, but have internal goals for ourselves is very important. And that one, the survival mode for me is big for me, to be very mindful that it's okay. It's okay to live in alignment. It's okay to live like aligned
in peace,
peace to all that is, right? And those are some of my goals this year as well. And another one is like I also want to be more mindful of the environments that I'm in. Like stop just saying yes just because. And because when you go to a place that is not for your highest good and you're just going just because you have to or you feel obligated to go, then you have to be very careful how you're going to come back out of that, right? So I'm being more mindful of who I surround myself with, who I call friends, who is my circle, who I allow into my field, right? So it's like being very mindful of all the places, of all the people. And those are some of the things
that's hard.
Yeah.
Especially for like us, like we're, Hispanics, we're that's something that the family doesn't take so lightly. The family or friends, it's not something that people want to embrace. Like, oh, you're here right away. Oh, she doesn't want to come around. She's too good for us now, whatever the case might be. I could see that, and that's something that we have to deal with, and you're trying to like protect your peace, protect your space and your energy, and then people are just like, oh, and we have to deal with that, especially with a family.
Yeah, but if you really think about it, it's like you wouldn't go to sleep at night and leave your doors open and your windows open and then your gates open so anybody could just come in, right?
Yeah.
But then yet we do it on a daily basis. We have friends that we don't want to be friends with. We go to events that we don't even want to go to just because we feel obligated. So just like being very mindful of where I'm placing my energy, who I'm sharing it with, Like, just like that for me is pretty big this year as well. Like, I mean, I've been on a journey of I have pretty healthy boundaries at this point in my life now, but I feel that sometimes when the new year begins, you have to kind of revisit those places, right? To see, okay, what am I carrying on this new year? Am I going to continue having the boundary that I had? Does this still serve me, right? Not just because it served me last year doesn't mean that it has to serve me this year in the same way. Yeah. So just being like really mindful of that. And I feel like that for me is pretty big right now.
Yeah, I know, because those are, I mean, we hear so many people say that they want to protect their energy. I hear it often. I hear a lot of my clients say that often, you know, like, oh, I don't like their energy or their vibe and stuff like that. But I mean, I keep a lot of things to myself because there's a lot of people that are just not, you know, they're just not ready to hear certain things. But I think if you're only focused on that, there's so much more that, you know, it also comes from within you. It's not only what people bring to you, it's what you put out, you know? So if you're constantly thinking like, oh, you know, they have bad energy and they're like, oh, they're bad vibes. Oh, I just negative vibes or whatever. You're just like, you know, but you say like they're still your friends and you're still hanging out with them, but they like their bad energy. It's just, I don't know. It's just sometimes you're just like, we really stop looking out and look in, you know, look at yourself first. So that's one thing. I feel we've said it a lot in our episodes, but we're always talking about look within. If, you know, for the listeners, like if you guys make that a practice as to like, why are you feeling the way you're feeling? Why do you have such strong emotions towards a subject, a person? Why does this person make you so mad? Why is it that comment piss you off? Why does this one hurt your feelings? Like, really don't look at them anymore. Just look at you. Like, why are you reacting to how you're reacting? So many answers will come, but that's the hard part, right? Like, looking back at ourselves is nobody ever wants to really look at. No one ever wants to point the finger at themselves. So and that's one of the things that, you know, we encourage everybody to always do, because that's where it starts. And I think this last year was extremely eye-opening for me, because I'd done a lot of that. I did a lot of that work, and it was very helpful in my marriage, with my children, noticing things about them that would make me mad, and it made me realize that it's because I'm the same exact way. So then I'm like, how am I yelling at them, you know, and setting these expectations for them, or getting mad at them, when I can't even get it together. I'm the same way, you know? So it's things like that. But another thing that I wanted us to ask you about and see what your point of view is, how about embracing growth through your challenges? I think that's huge for a lot of people for the new year, right? Seeing the challenges as an opportunity for growth, and I feel like at some point this last year, not one point, many times I told someone that they're telling me a story about a hard time they're going through, and many of them, right? Because my clients sit in my chair, and a lot of them share a lot of very hard things with me, but I can see, because I'm outside of that bubble that they're in. I'm outside of the pain that they're going through. I can see the beauty in everything that they're going through, and I can see how it's going to shape them. You know, when they're out of it, then they're going to turn around and they're going to say, man, you know, I went through that, and I learned this much, and I know so much more. I'm much stronger because of that. I learned that I don't no longer want this, or I learned that, or that hard challenge, or that hard lesson taught me something. Or instead of seeing it as a failure, seeing it as a lesson learned, right? So anywho, I found myself telling a lot of them, like, I know what you're going through is really hard right now, but one day you're going to see how beautiful it is. Like, everything you're going through and all this pain. I know you can't see it now, but then it was amazing to see, like, towards the end of the year when I'm seeing these clients again and just seeing them in a completely different light. And then we literally are talking about, oh, do you remember when I was sitting here crying in your chair? And I remember and they're like, yes, because of that, I'm so thankful. And I'm just like, you see, and it's just, I know that we're in the middle of it. When we're in the midst of it, it's hard, right? But, like, how do you tell someone to change your perception of these challenges, to try and see, like, what is, how do we say, like, what is it that you're trying to teach me right now? What is it that is showing me? What is it that I need to learn? How do we tell someone to embrace them, in other words, I guess?
I feel that, like, the person has to be ready to want to perceive challenge in a different way. When challenge knocks at your door, you have two options. You're either going to embrace it or you're going to go against it. Challenge won't leave just because you're against it.
Yeah.
Challenge will be like, okay, you've chosen to go against me, then we're going to have to go through it a little harder than we should have, because you chose to go against the energy, to just face it with such a negativity, right? So it's like being really mindful in that moment when challenge knocks at your door, and just picture, like, if challenge was a person and it's knocking at your door, how are you going to receive that challenge? Are you going to welcome it and embrace it because you know that it's bringing you a gift that you can't see right now, but you will see at the end, right? Or you're going to open the door and scream and yell and, like, have all this negative reaction to it, right? Which one are you going to, what option are you going to embrace the challenge with? A positive one or a negative one, right? One of the books that I read was talking about challenge, and it said, I'm challenged. So what you can never do is get rid of me. You could, however, choose to look at me from a different point of view. That is our choice. So I would say, like, if I'm talking to someone, I would give them the power back to them. I would tell them, it's your choice how you go through this challenge. Yeah. Either you go through it in a positive way or you go through it in a negative way. It's like giving the power back to them. And they think that challenge has the power.
Yeah.
But challenge doesn't have the power. You have the power, right? So it's giving it back, giving back the power, and tell them choose, right? I mean, if you've chosen negativity over and over when you're facing a challenge, then your result has always been the same thing. Right? And what if you try something new, which is looking at it from a positive point of view, your outcome will be totally different, right? It's not easy, right? Because we're so programmed to fear challenge.
Yeah, it's a fear.
It's a fear, right? It's something that we were programmed to believe.
Yep.
When you're facing a challenge and difficulty, run like your house is on fire. Yeah. But it really isn't. What's happening is that you have manifested challenge because there's an opportunity for growth, right? It's just that we don't perceive it that way because we're under a program. We're under an illusion that challenge is going to kill us, hurt us, break our hearts, and, like, all these things, right? Which, I mean, we sometimes do go through certain things that are difficult, but we don't have to perceive them that difficult. The choice is always ours. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's super important that we, in that moment when someone's going through a challenge, that you hand them back the power. That you're like, okay, I see you're going through a challenging situation, but look how powerful you are through this challenge. Them being able to see themselves as bigger than the challenge usually will help them get through the challenge in a much graceful way, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
I feel that's a lot of the times that it helps. People face challenges in a difficult way because they feel that they're not powerful, that they cannot face, that they don't have the tools, that they don't have the power to face it. But in reality, you're bigger than the challenge itself.
Yeah.
So look at yourself from that perspective. You're much bigger, much more powerful than the actual challenge itself. It's kind of, challenge reminds me of spiders.
Yeah.
What do we do when there's a spider in the room? We're afraid. We want to kill it, but the spider itself is more afraid of you, right? Yeah. So it's just like the programming that we're under.
Yeah.
And
that fear that it gives us. Yeah. Fear is everything. I mean, fear is, it controls us. It's I think fear is behind every bad or negative feeling. It's just fear. I feel it's just fear of dying? Fear of dying? Fear of failing, fear of losing, fear of hurting, it's just fear of, but it's true. Like it's not going to kill you, you just make a decision and you choose. And so many people rather run away and not have to face these things. And they just run away from everything, from their problems, from the issues, but like you said, it's going to keep knocking on your door.
It's not going to leave.
Yeah.
It's not going to. That's not every quote unquote negative situation that happens to us. It is always an opportunity for us to get to know ourselves in a deeper level. It is always an opportunity for growth. It is always for our highest good. No matter what the challenge is, we have to trust that is always for our highest good, even if we cannot see it in that moment. Because if we play victim, along with challenge, you play victim, you play the angry person, you play like the fighting person. Like, just imagine, you're going to create chaos like you will not believe it in your life, when it's not necessary for us to do that, right? Challenges or negative things that happened are here to teach you more about you, if you choose to see it in that way. But if you choose to see it negative, then your outcome will be negative. If you choose to see it in light and positive, then the outcome will be positive, right? It's just how we embrace it, how we welcome the unexpected things that makes a whole difference. And sometimes we manifest difficult situations just so that we can see how we are playing in our own story. Oh my God, I am still like chaotic, or I'm reacting. Yeah. And it's an opportunity. That challenge in itself is an opportunity to just look at yourself under a magnifying glass. Say like, oh, I got to work on when I'm facing difficult situations. I got to work on how I react. Yeah. I got to act on the words that I use when I'm under stress. It's such an opportunity for us to really reflect on ourselves, right? So I had to learn throughout the years of my journey to do that, but it wasn't easy at the beginning. Like even till this day, there's times that I go through certain challenges that are bigger than others, and I'll dip all the way down, and then from there I'm like, oh my God. So like we all have to go through certain things to find ourselves again, over and over and over. And every time we find ourselves deeper and deeper, we expand more and more and more. And that's what we're here to do, to get to know ourselves at a soul level and to expand as much as we can.
Yeah. And how many times, for whoever's listening, how many challenges have you guys gone through? And how many times have you survived them? Yeah. I'm pretty sure if you're still alive, if you're listening to this, you've survived every single one of them, right? And if you really go back and you think, you're going to say, if you really want to embrace it and embrace them as lessons, you will find a lesson in each and every single one of them. If you don't want to see them as a lesson, that's something that you're choosing to do, but you learned something from them. From every single one, you learned not to do that again. You learned to react this way or not react this way. You learned something. And when you learn something, that's you growing. So challenge, it's the way you explained it, is it's always going to be knocking on your door. It doesn't go away. It's just fear that we face when we're facing it. But it's true, exactly what he says. We're much bigger than it. We're much bigger. We're much stronger. We're so capable of surviving it. It's not going to kill you. So seeing it in that positive way, where you're embracing it and trying to figure out, like, what are you trying to teach me? What, when you're facing yourself with a challenge, say to yourself, what are you trying to teach me? What is it trying to teach me right now? What's the lesson behind this? That way you see it in a more positive light, which I understand that it's not always the easiest thing to do, but it's more of an intentional thing moving forward. And it doesn't have to be so hard. And again, if you go back and you look at all the challenges you've dealt with in your life, pretty sure there's been some amazing lessons in that.
Oh, for sure. And that's what we're inviting all of our listeners to do this 2025. Like Lou said, being more intentional is one of them. Learning to thrive, to feel safe when we're happy, when we're aligned. To be really in this energy of like happiness and joy, and like to allow ourselves to live there. We allow ourselves to live in survival too much. But we really count. It's like you can count the times that you feel alive and you feel happy and you feel joy, but you lost count of how many times you felt the opposite way, right? So like allowing ourselves to thrive this 2025, being more mindful,
definitely
setting your intentions for sure, boundaries that help you thrive on a daily basis. So
Stop chasing.
Yes.
Stop chasing that end result, that result that you're looking for, because when you get there, there's going to be another fucking mountain that you're going to climb, and then another one, and another one, another one. See the progress. See the progress, even if it's baby steps. And sometimes progress is not always like, up. Sometimes you're going to go down, but you're definitely not where you were before. So being present, being mindful of all those things, and
celebrating yourself.
Yeah. And if you don't know what your values are, at least I didn't, try and find those, really, really dig deep and find what your values are. What is meaningful to you? What matters? If today was your last day or tomorrow's your last day and that's all you know, what matters to you? And then be more intentional with that.
Yes, for sure. I think it was a great message, great episode for everyone, especially for those that are starting with their goals or their intentions for 2025. We hope this episode helped you in even if it's small, in any way. And we always thank you for staying with us till the end. Anything else you want to share before we close?
Thank you guys for listening. Again, Happy New Year's, and we're wishing everybody a successful and healthy and love and just all the good stuff for this year. Again, you can find us on Unlocking Our Code podcast on Instagram. You can find me on The Plug by Revive and Stevie.
And you can find me at Transforming Your World Within. And we hope that you tune in for our next one. We can't wait to see what 2025 brings for the podcast. We hope you stay along with us on this journey of this new year.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.